Yeah, so before I get into this NBA video, I've noticed that the previous NBA video or previous video I have uploaded has still got no view, even though it's been there for like at least a week, right? I think for obvious reason, like I need to stop criticizing myself. This is why, a lot of people have lost interest in me because I keep talking down on myself, criticizing myself, and also, hurting myself, right? I still continue to do these stupid things, and this is why the channel's gonna go nowhere, right? And obviously, I have not been uploading a lot lately, so people have lost attention. I mean, if you're just not consistent, consistency is important, and if you're not gonna be consistent on yourself, then you're not gonna be successful in life. That's just the honest truth. And I have a really hard time, being consistent, but there's another reason why, people don't watch my NBA video, and now, why you see likes and stuff, why they don't like the video and stuff, and I can see that it gets less and less. For obvious reason, because it's my fault and it's the NBA's fault, right? As you can see, like the NBA, conference final for like both division has been so terrible, right? And it's boring. I mean, the first round was, not so good. Then the second round was much better than the first round. And then when we come to the third round, like teams get exposed here and there, and the series ended so much sooner than we think. And this is why it was boring. And good thing you didn't watch my previous video talk about the conference final, because it was damn awful. Awfully predicted. I got everything wrong, and obviously because I got everything wrong in that video, and now I've talked about recap, and it's gonna be quick because it's just boring, and it's just like your team exposed here and there, right? You want me to talk about the Pacers versus the Celtic, and the Timberwolves versus the Mavericks, right? And I'm recording as of May 31st of 2024, and the final does not start until the 6th. Sorry, I have to pause the video because I want to see so the NBA the conference finals just ended yesterday on the 30th. So that means both teams are gonna get at least one. It's a 1 week break, which is a good thing, right? Because obviously I'm gonna miss before I talk about the recap and the NBA finals. I say that I'm gonna miss 2 games, right? I really want to watch the NBA final. I know that when the NBA final ends, you're gonna have to wait months after months. It's gonna be a long summer, break thing, and you have to wait till all the way up to October again, to see the team fighting for the next championship for next year, right? Which is gonna go by fast, right? And all the trade rumors and all that stuff, right, been going on. So yeah, because right when whoever wins the championship, congratulations, and then we move off to the off season, trades and rumors and coaches and where a player goes, where coaches go, and it's just gonna go crazy every time we go to the off season, right? And who's getting better here or there, right? So yeah, I gotta make this video a little bit longer because I wanted to talk about how the Dallas got to the finals and how the Celtics got to the finals, right? That's important because by me talking about it, who would win the NBA championship, right? Who would most likely? So before we get into a big recap, we have to go against. Let's talk about the Pacers versus Celtic, right? That is one of the most boring series, and the Celtic clearly swept the Pacers. Obviously, because I knew Pacer has no chance of beating the Boston Celtic. For 2 obvious reasons. One, they're too young, inexperienced. And 2, because of, injury. Tyrese Haliburton been injured. Pacers been dealing with injuries as well, and they cannot close the fourth quarter, right? Every time it gets to the fourth quarter, the Boston just answer right back. I mean, those are the most, crucial, important quarters, that the Pacers just don't play well, right? I'd say the second half, and especially the fourth quarter, what's matter the most is the clutches, because that's where all the players, get very clutch, right? And Boston just took advantage of Pacer like they should. The Boston got like too many talent, over the Pacers, and they should take care of business, right? And I feel like the Pacers could have easily won like 2 or 3 games, and I'll tell you why. Because most of these games were like close, right? Well, except for game 2, game 2 was a blowout, right? If Pacers was a little bit experienced, they would have won. They would definitely the series would not have been sweet, even though they were injured, right? But clearly, the Pacers are also a fraudulent team because they face, I think the entire East team are just plagued with injuries. Which is why, the Boston Celtics has the easiest, run to the finals, right? In the East Coast. They probably had the easiest. And plus, they have, lots of talented players. That's what the expectation is. So the expectation obviously going to be much higher than the one that don't have, talents in the team, right? Talent, good coaching, and just luck too, The Celtics just got lucky, honestly, and I'm not sure if they're going to do well in the finals, right? I remember, like 2 years ago, Celtics just went back to the finals, and Mavs up like 2 years later, right? I mean, last year they fell short. They lost in Game 7 versus, the Miami Heat, right? So, yeah, Game 1, the Celtics only win by like 5 points. And then they they blew up Pacer. Then Game 3, Game 4, they only won by 3 points. So, yeah, both games was like very close. It can go either way, Pacer. I mean, if Pacers win like, oh yeah, and also the first game, the Pacers just like they just messed up, like they scored an opportunity. I think they were leading the Celtic, right at the buzzer. Then Celtics shoot a 3, and then they went to overtime, right? If Pacers need to learn how to close out game, and I just say that Pacers need experience because they need to know how to close a game. If they don't have a problem closing that game, they could have been up 3-1 on the Celtics already. And I knew that these problems have cost Pacers a series and multiple games, and they cannot come back being the Celtic, right? The Celtic did sweep them, but it was not like a big sweep, right? I can say that it's a close sweep or a weak sweep, right? Call it whatever it is. Sweep does not clearly tell you that the team totally dominated the other team. It's not. It's just like how close the game and what the actual game rhythm looks like when you see both teams play against each other. So nothing much to talk about there. And then the Celtic also injured too. They don't have Kristaps Porzingis. Kristaps Porzingis is really dangerous, because obviously size matters a lot in basketball, right? And this is why people hate small ball and stuff, because they cannot stop big guys, right? So yeah. A lot of teams do play really lousy against like team with lots of bigs, and this is why I speculate that the Timberwolves goes to the final, but that wasn't the case. So let me see like what's going on with the Minnesota Timberwolves versus the Dallas Mavericks. So I picked the Timberwolves to beat the Mavericks, but the Mavericks actually beat Timberwolves, and it did not surprise me, anyway, because I have to tell you why. Because I knew that the Timberwolves has a lot of flawless and they have a lot of gap and open. The Denver Nuggets obviously, exposed the Timberwolves. The Timberwolves should have taken care of the Nuggets, in a lot sooner. Not wait until like Game 7, right? Yeah, because that Rudy Gobert is the can't, always choking a playoff, and then, Rudy Gobert is not a very good defender, even though he has a large size, right? And Anthony Edwards, has not been showing up. So, obviously, if the Timberwolves even makes it to the final, I gotta say that the Celtics have a little bit his chance of being the Timberwolves. Timberwolves are probably easier opponent to the Celtics than, Dallas Mavericks. And I was correct about it because I've been watching video, I've been watching people talk about it and all that stuff. So, I know that the Timberwolves are gonna fold, right? They got lucky. They beat the Nuggets, right? The Nuggets are always fraud. They were never championship contenders, right? Because last year was totally a fluke, you know. They play against like pretty much nobodies, right? The Lakers are fraud, you know, having a LeBron James issue, and they went to like every team in the West was like weak. So don't need to explain it right there. So yeah, and the Denver Nuggets never beat a team that has at least 50 wins. Or 45 wins from the regular season. So that says a lot. That means you're just being a mediocre team. Right? And then when they face against Timberwolves, which is a little bit tougher than the Timberwolves barely survived the Nuggets, right? So let's talk about, you know, the Dallas Mavericks versus the Timberwolves. So the first two games, you know, it was very close, you know. The Timberwolves should have won like one of these games to make it a series. And then, you know, Luka and Kyrie, you know, has been making a lot of big shots, which, I mean, a team that has like one, you know, superstar, you know, a killer instinct when it comes to clutch and stuff, make them very dangerous team. But the Dallas Mavericks has been a very dangerous team because let me tell you like why they almost swept the Timberwolves. It's because of Luka and Kyrie, right? I hear that, you know, lots of your false, you know, narrative about Kyrie, like, oh, Kyrie is, you know, garbage, Kyrie is this, Kyrie is that. People at ESPN has been really criticizing on Kyrie, and you need to stop this, you know, Kyrie thing, right? If Kyrie was not with the Cleveland Cavaliers in 2016, the Cavaliers would have never won a championship, right? LeBron cannot win a championship unless if he has, you know, some additional help, which was Kyrie. Kyrie was the number one reason why, you know, it saved LeBron's legacy, right? And people don't really see this, right? Obviously, you know, Draymond got suspended in 2016, but I have to talk about Kyrie. Kyrie has been one of the biggest, you know, big shot, you know, killers, right? He's a very dangerous player. He's very good, and he has really good mentality, and he's very good at closing out games, right? And so is Luka Doncic. Even though Luka Doncic will have to need lots of improvement, and I knew that Ant-Man's not going to go far in the playoff, obviously, because he faced easy opponent, and he's just, you know, probably too young and inexperienced. I realized that he's only in his early 20s, so he has a lot to learn and grow. If he wins the championship, then that would be a miracle. That's why I always said. So this is why this clearly explains, you know, why, you know, the Mavericks deserve to be in the finals and not the Timberwolves, right? Ant-Man's a problem, you know, he's too experienced, and they just need better players, honestly, right? They need to get rid of Rudy Gobert, right? Rudy Gobert, a team with Rudy Gobert, like, they're just gonna go nowhere, right? You saw what happened with Rudy Gobert versus Utah Jazz, right? He's just not a very good defender. And he's been garbage on the defensive end. Right, Luka just shot from Rudy Gobert, that's just how tell you how weak a defense it is. And then Game 3 is another close game, you know, and Mavericks just won it like in about 9 points difference. And then I knew that the Timberwolves have a lot of fight and power, and yeah, kind of not surprised that, you know, the Mavericks failed to sweep the Timberwolves, because Mavericks also have, you know, lots of, you know, issues too. I knew that they're not going to completely sweep Timberwolves, even though they won the first two games. And they were playing at Minnesota, so they were up to 0, and Minnesota has no home court advantage. But at the same time, you know, like, Timberwolves will make a series, you know, they just still won the game, you know, at the Dallas Mavericks, like they should, and it didn't surprise me, because they have a lots of, you know, game to adjust, and they finally, you know, took a victory in Dallas, right? I mean, being at Dallas is not impossible. I mean, the Clipper did it, you know, the Thunder did it, right? The Timberwolves are not any different, you know. They're maybe a little bit better, and that's what the result is expected, right? And then Game 5, you know, like, totally beat them, right? Now, if that was a Nuggets team, they did came back against the Nuggets, but the Dallas just kept the foot on the gas, and just keep pressuring the Timberwolves. And this is why they don't make comebacks, right? They just blew out Timberwolves in Game 5, and something I don't want to talk about because it's clearly just a landslide. So, yeah. And a lot of people say that the Dallas Mavericks is a very smart team and they have won the trade, around the midseason. I remember that the Dallas was struggling, and then, when it comes, to like after the trade deadline, and they got like I heard they got PJ Washington and then, Gafford. They make all these kind of crazy trade and they just keep winning trade, and they didn't make trade, to get Kyrie, I know that the Dallas Mavericks didn't make the playoff last year, but then they made trade, to fix up their roster, and they benefited like really big time. And I could not believe this team actually wasn't fouled. And yeah, the Mavericks is something you don't underestimate, right? I've been underestimating this team, or like, oh, they're just gonna have a mediocre season. Like, I didn't think this team's gonna win the finals, right? Because the West looks so wide open, like it's just full of unpredictable, right? I mean, shout out to Mark Cuban and, the Dallas Mavericks organization, they deserve a championship, definitely, as I said, because they make really smart moves. They get Kyrie, they build like so many bigs around there, and they definitely match up the Timberwolves, really well. And now they're heading to the NBA's final, facing against, the Boston Celtics, right? So, this is a long video, but I need to talk a little bit faster because I need to get going, So before, we talk about NBA Finals, let's talk about the Mavericks, right? How they got to the finals. So the Mavericks face, the Clippers. The Clippers don't show it in playoff, I mean, surprisingly, they won 2 games against the Dallas, but then I knew Game 5, Game 6, when it comes to the most important time in a playoff, in a situation in a playoff, then they're just going to fold. Yeah, I never trust the Clippers, right? And then, you face against the young OKC team, the first seed. I wanted the Thunders win, but it didn't surprise me. Like, the Thunders failed, but I think next year that they're going to be much better, and they may face the Mavericks again. And I'm picking the Thunders to win this time, so yeah, don't speak, ahead of time. What if Dallas, suddenly not going to make the playoff again next year, You cannot see the future right now, but you can predict future, but you just cannot see it. Maybe it goes way unexpected, right? And then, the Dallas Mavericks face against, the Timberwolves, that has a good defense, but then, exposing Rudy Gobert, then the series is just pretty much over for the Timberwolves, right? Pretty much done with. In Celtic, I feel like I don't have to talk much about Celtic, right? Everyone was just injured, in the East Coast, just like what happened 3 years ago, The only reason why the Suns got to the finals, and that should have been the first round exit team, is because everybody in the West was injured. So who has the weaker run, in your opinion? The Phoenix Suns or the Boston Celtics, right? I mean, the Boston Celtics look more stacked than the Phoenix Suns of 2000. If these teams meet in the finals, then I will definitely pick the Celtics over the Suns. So I don't think the Celtics has the weakest run to the NBA's final in history. That's not the case. Maybe second or third, but it cannot be first because Suns obviously had the first weakest NBA final. Because let's talk about the Phoenix Suns, even though it's a little off topic, right? The Suns should have got swept to the Milwaukee Bucks. And are you on drugs or something? Are you crazy? I'm not saying crazy stuff. This is just the facts, because the only reason why the Suns win the first 2 games because of, terrible reffing and Giannis was injured, right? I didn't pay attention. Like, Giannis was injured the entire series and they still cannot beat the Bucks, right? That's how garbage of a Suns team it is. That Suns team was garbage, right? I mean, if that was a Celtic, they would put a good fight, but the Suns has like no chance of being the Bucks, right? Yeah, and every time Giannis goes down, then the Bucks look so much weaker, right? And they have Damian Lillard, he's a very irresponsible and very, awful, defender, which is why, the Pacers, overpowered them, and And even if they face Celtic, the Bucks face Celtic, the Bucks has no chance still, right? But I'm not gonna disrespect the Celtic, right? I heard that so many times. The finals not gonna be a sweep. It's gonna go to 6-7 games. I got a gut feeling that this series is gonna go to at least 6 games, and I'm picking the Mavericks because seriously, the Celtic had an easier run to the finals than the Mavericks, right? Even though the Timberwolves fraudulent, they were pretenders because they faced against another pretender, Denver Nuggets, and the Clippers were pretender, and the OKC team was just too young. So I say that. Okay, here's my suggestion of how the Dallas will take over Celtic, right? And I really want the Mavericks to win because I cannot stand against the Celtic. Like I told you, their racist fan bases, their fan base is just so toxic, and they're winning 17 championship, and I know that everybody should root for the Mavericks, and not the Celtic, because I say that, majority of the Celtics, nation are, not classy at all, They're just like racist, especially toward, black people and stuff. And I heard a lot of Celtic fans now really hate Kyrie Irving. And I hope Kyrie Irving do show up in the final, just to show them, the Celtic in their face, right? Just beat them, just beat the Celtic, and embarrass the entire Celtic, I hope that Kyrie, gets very clutch in the fourth quarter when they go up to the Celtic at the TD Garden, just to throw back at them, of the way he treat Kyrie. Kyrie's going to be really mad. So, yeah, in that sense, Karma, you cost your Celtic team to lose like 1 or 2 games just because Kyrie goes crazy, right? I mean, Luka just needs to, to step it up, just don't flop, and don't whine and complain, and just, just do your stuff, just become clutch, just like Kyrie, right? Then Daniel Gafford and, Derek Lively, everybody shows up, right? And there's another reason why, the Mavericks also lost game 4 is that Derek Lively did not play, right? That was a huge difference because they lost their size, their center, right? But yeah, if the Mavericks stay healthy, then obviously they'll beat the Celtic. But I wish, both teams were healthy so that way we will know, who's the true championship. And I know injury changes everything, right? I actually predict the Pacers to beat the Celtic, but then, it's the experience and, the injury thing. This is why it looks like a big sweep, right? So obviously I want to watch all the NBA finals, but then, I cannot watch the first 2 games because I'll be on vacation. So it's good thing that the NBA final starts from a week from now, because if it starts like a week earlier, like today and stuff, then I'm going to be missing out, the entire finals. I think I'll miss like 4 games, 4 or 5, at least 4 games, right? But then if they have a week, all the team gets rested, then, I can watch at least, game 3. I mean, game 2, I expect it, to be available, on the June the 10th, then further on after vacation, which in the NBA scheduling, I'm going to miss 2 games, right? For sure. That's not going to be a big deal because I say that the first 2 games, it's not that important because it doesn't clarify, who will win the NBA championship, because we've seen so many times, teams come down from like 1-1 or, 2-0, and some team even come back from a 3-1 deficit, right? Like many times, like multiple times, not many times, right? Coming back from 3-1s is like very hard, But then if the series tied like 1-1 or 2-2 or 3-3, something like that, then it can go either way, right? The first 2 games are not going to be that important, but they're going to play at the Boston Celtic, right? So yeah, if the Mavericks can steal at least 1 game from the Celtic and just, secure their home court advantage, then they're gonna get this job done in Game 6, right? But if the Celtic, because the Celtic has a home court advantage, just based on their record, right? If the Celtics, just win all their games at home turf, which I don't expect, then the Celtic will win a championship, right? God forsake, I do not want Celtic to get number 80 because Laker will be upset, and boy, oh boy, it will not look good for the Laker or for the Celtic hater because, man, these toxic Celtic fans are gonna go out of control, man. They're gonna go crazy, man. If the Celtic win this year, right? And then, Celtic, they just need to stay healthy, and if they get Kristaps Porzingis back, then... And, on the Celtic, they have they have Derek White, they have Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, decent good player. They have Drew Holiday that nobody pays attention to. I feel like every time I watch Celtic, like, nobody talks about Drew Holiday. Drew Holiday is a very underrated player, and he's very dangerous, right? He was one of the biggest reason why, the Bucks won championship back in 2021, right? Against that, fraudulent Phoenix Suns. You gotta watch out for Drew Holiday. And, basically this, I cannot underestimate Celtic, The Celtics are probably gonna get at least 2 wins against the Mavericks, or even 3 wins, right? Push it to Game 7. But I think the Mavericks are going to win because they have like 2 of the biggest clutchest player, right? Versus, a very strong, Celtic team. I think the final is going to be more interesting than ever, and maybe even more interesting, than the second round of the playoff, right? So if the Mavericks win this championship, then Kyrie will be in a big conversation. So is Luka, right? And then Luka will be very happy to say Maverick. But if the Celtic fail again this year, they're gonna have to break this up or just retool themselves. I think Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown are definitely a break up, right? I could say that the Celtic has a weakness. Like they need to stop shooting threes, right? This is what. I mean, you live by 3, you die by 3. Like that's not how you win championship, But yeah, but Celtic do have a really good defense, so is the Mavericks, right? I mean, Mavericks could be down like a few points, when it comes fourth quarter, and Kyrie's and Luka just gonna do their job, hit all their big shots, Boy, oh boy, like if Kyrie shoots a 3-point at the buzzer and they were like down 2 points, then boy, oh boy, like, people are gonna go crazy, man. Especially if there's a 3 guard, like, oh my god, that will be a shock to the whole world, man. But yeah, like, this is gonna go viral, man. So, yeah, Kyrie is crazy, man. Right? Hopefully the ball goes through Kyrie's hand, and becomes the biggest touch ball, because I know Kyrie will make the shot. Like, in his heart, right? Kyrie just has to do his thing, Right? Kyrie Irving. Honestly, without him and without that trade, then the Mavericks are just probably not going to be this far. But these big things really help the Mavericks to be where it is, and hopefully, like, it will buy a tenner, for Luka to stay in Mavericks, and not request a trade, right? Because I heard that Luka's unhappy, but he should be really happy right now because he's getting all the help and stuff. But if the Mavericks win, like, you cannot give credit to Luka, right? Some credit, but you have to give all that credit to Kyrie because Kyrie was the biggest reason why the Mavericks made this far, and the roster stuff and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, let's just see, how this thing, play out and stuff. For my finals prediction, I got the Mavericks in at least 6 games, right? That's the most likely outcome. Well, Game 7 won't be surprising, but that means they're going to have to win in Boston. Like, I know that winning in Boston is going to be tough, but the only reason for Celtics to survive is just that, Mavericks has to get injured, or either, like the ref has to be terrible, right? That's another thing with the Mavericks is like they need to watch out for the refs, because they're gonna cheat. They're gonna try to cheat the game, and favoring the Celtic to win the championship, getting foul calls and all that stuff. You gotta watch out because I know that Celtic team is cheating, man, and I very well know they cheat against Lakers time. If the Lakers was in that position, like, boy, you're gonna get a lots of BS call on the Lakers, right? If they face against the Celtic right now, so just warning to the Mavericks that you have to watch out for the refs, man. That can clearly put you out of the games, right? Your ejection and also game suspension, like they need to stay away from those, right? The Mavericks needs to manage to stay away from those. If suspension or one of these things happen, then it could very well change the series more in favor of the Celtic, right? The Celtics are probably going to be more formidable than they were a couple years ago because of more experience stuff. I know that they just faced against the Golden State Warriors 2 years ago, and now they have the experience. I mean, that's the only reason why the Celtic has an advantage over the Dallas Mavericks is that their experience, right? This team has never been to the finals, right? And this is why the Mavericks are gonna have tough, right? Experience very well matter the most, and also the size and the health too, right? I say that experience is one of the big roles, like why the team will win, right? Yeah, I mean, you've been there for the first time, you're not gonna be like very successful, but compared to your second time, the second time you go to the same area or same place, then you're gonna be much more successful since you learn like all the experience and all the tactic and also how the pressure is, right? So that Celtic is not gonna be easy, and if they have Kristaps Porzingis, like I said, that makes the team even stronger than before. They need size and all that stuff. So yeah, this is why like the Mavericks cannot beat the Celtic in a landslide, right? I feel like maybe there will be like maybe 1 or 2 blowouts at most, but I say that most games gonna be very close, right? And it's gonna be very low scoring because now like the finals is different compared to the playoffs. What playoff are you talking about? I talk about the first round and the second round, right? Yeah, because when you get to the Western or Eastern Conference final, then all the pretenders are left. But for some reason, we live in a much easier era. I don't call it weak. I just say easier. So that's why pretenders can go as far as up the Western Conference final, but they'll never enter the finals, right? Because there's only 2 best teams, and what's best team from the division, right? I knew that the West is always stronger than the East, no matter what, right? As of currently, right? Yeah, 3 years ago the West was weak because of all the injury, but now it's the opposite. Like the entire East is injured, right? And whoever's the healthiest gets to the finals, which is the Celtic, right? So yeah, the Mavericks, they've also faced like 2 flawless team and 1 inexperienced team. I mean, Dallas did not face injury, maybe a little bit injury, because the Clipper didn't have Kawhi Leonard, right? Yeah, Kawhi should have retired, and not stay with the Clippers. But yeah, who knows if the Clipper was healthy, like they could very well, be give Dallas a really hard time, right? That's the thing, like once you get past the Clipper, I feel like Dallas, it's gonna go far in the playoff, right? I mean, it would be a miracle if somehow the Thunders beat the Mavericks and get to the finals, but they can't. I don't think the Thunder's gonna beat the Celtic. I say no one in the West can beat the Celtic except for the Mavericks, right? And the crazy thing is that the Mavericks are the 5th seed in the. Yeah, but the seed doesn't matter because the team that were on top of them, They either have less experience or either they have, two players that just fold themselves in the playoff, right? Or inexperienced. So yeah, Luka's been staying with his team. Like, if you stay with team, injury free stuff, and if you play with your players, with each other as a team for long enough, then you will get better than compared to your other team, that hasn't been gelled yet. So yeah, the Celtic win this year championship. They will have a parade in 18 years, man. They have not won a championship since 2008. The Dallas Mavericks have not won a championship, 3 years after the Boston was this championship, which is 2011, which I was in middle school. Like, damn, goddamn, time flies, like 13 years already went by already. So yeah, I actually, in my heart, I wanted the Timberwolves to win the championship because that team has never won a championship before, Like, this will be the first championship ever, but that's not going to happen. And I knew that the Celtics and Mavericks are desperate. They have to win the championship this year, both teams. Because next year, all the younger teams are going to get better, and they will figure out a way to win a championship, and these teams will have no chance to even be in the finals because they're going to get eliminated, and the conference for like East and West is going to get much tougher, and people are going to figure out how to stop the injury. People are going to change and all that stuff. So yeah, all that change and all that unpredictable things are going to come, and you're not going to be in the finals, for so many different reasons, aside from injuries and all stuff. It could be chemistry issue and all that stuff and all the changes, like many factors, that I can think of, right? Don't only say this video because it'll be too long and stuff. So yeah, I think I talked too much in this video, but yeah, I just posted, just for fun, not being too serious about it. So yeah, so let's say that the Mavericks are defending champion or Celtic defending champion, whatever that is. But to me, the West looks so obvious, like who's going to come out to the finals next year, and that wouldn't be a surprise to me. It's the Oklahoma City Thunder, right? I say that this team needs to take advantage when the Oklahoma City Thunder is not around because that team has like so many goddamn, draft picks, and they're so young. They just learn to grow, and they have a very good coacher, over there, and that team is going to be very dangerous, and they might even dominate the league. They might even build a dynasty. So that's the team I highly want. You better watch out for, right? It's the OKC Thunder, right? Once they dominate the league, then the entire West is gonna get it's in bleak right now because OKC Thunder is taking over the West. It could be this year or next year. Like, I'm serious about it, man. Like, I'm actually scared of Thunder's team if I was the Mavericks or the Timberwolves, right? I know Denver's not going to win any more championship after that fluke season. I say probably never in my lifetime. Probably never again, because if every team gets better and changes, in a positive way, then you will never see the Nuggets win a championship, right? Timberwolves with Rudy Gobert, they're going to have to break that up, right? That team's not going to win anytime soon, as long as the Mavericks there and the Thunders. The Thunders are probably the only team that may beat the Mavericks next year. That's at least for sure. So I feel like the Mavericks are not going to repeat because of, teams that get better, I know Luka and Kyrie are going to be a strong, team, but they're going to get knocked out by, like, they probably get knocked down again, around the Western Conference Final. Except they're not playing Timberwolves. They're playing against a much, real, experienced nose team. So, peace out.